Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's not your average Josh back here for another movie review, and today I'm continuing my Indiana Jones film review series that I am doing here on my channel, and today I'm doing a review of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the third movie in the franchise. At the time I'm recording this, I actually already watched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Dial of Destiny already came out as well, so I already saw that in theaters, so as I'm reviewing this movie, I have a complete, full acknowledgement and recognition of the entire franchise and how this movie compares to it all. But before I get into my movie review, I do want to say if you're watching this, as I always say, hit that like button and leave a comment down below on what are your thoughts on any of the Indiana Jones films, this one in particular, Last Crusade, whatever your thoughts are, leave them down below. And also hit that subscribe button as well if this is your first time watching any of my videos, or if you're a returning viewer as well. Any support is always very much appreciated. Just a smaller channel here, just doing this when I can for fun. Also, you can add me on Snapchat and follow me on TikTok if you want to find content more similar to this, but most of the content will be here on this YouTube channel, Not Your Average Josh. So again, I appreciate all the support that I do get. Let's go ahead and get into this review of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This being the third film in the franchise, is directed again by Steven Spielberg, and this time the writing credits go to Jeffrey Boehm, George Lucas again, Menno Meyjes, and Philip Kaufman again in this one. And this time in 1938, after his father goes missing while pursuing the Holy Grail, Indiana Jones finds himself up against the Nazis again to stop them from obtaining its powers. Now for me, if you've watched, by the time this is out, I should have my Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom reviews up, and if you saw any of those, you kind of probably saw my overall thoughts on that. Raiders of the Lost Ark is still my favorite Indiana Jones film, and again, as I'm recording this, I've seen them all now, all 5 of the ones that have come out. And I still think Raiders of the Lost Ark is just the perfect, for me personally, is perfect action-adventure film, the perfect Indiana Jones film of what I want, especially, again, after watching all these movies. It just has everything I want in an Indiana Jones movie. Temple of Doom, I like the darker route that it went. I think there's a lot that I did like about the change-up with that. Just didn't quite reach the height that Raiders did for me. This one, The Last Crusade, definitely feels more like how Raiders was, just in the overall tone, again, going up against Nazis as well. But of course, this time, the difference in the formula, having a Sean Connery play Indy's dad, I thought that was just really good watching it. I felt the chemistry that both the actors had, and it definitely felt right. There's really 2 major moments in this movie with Sean Connery that are really impressive in terms of just the performance in the moment. You have that huge sequence where it seems like Indiana goes off the cliff with the car, I believe it was, or the tank that goes off the cliff in that moment. And you have Sean Connery, Henry Jones, the dad, he believes that Indy's dead, and he has a moment where throughout this whole movie, which I just love overall, the whole concept and the whole relationship between Indy and his dad, and you get to see there's just more dimensions to Indiana Jones's character of why he's doing what he's doing, why he's always so driven and always out trying to get these different artifacts. I just really like in this moment how his dad has been really still just closed off. It's one of the key themes with their relationship of Indy's dad always being very closed off in his own world, really driven and focused on what he is passionate about, which is similar, these artifacts, and the Holy Grail being one of them. And the reason why Indy does what he does, because he felt like his dad neglected him emotionally at times growing up. You definitely get that in this movie at times, and how that affected it, along with just Indiana Jones being his son. And so he just is driven to go out and do it as well, like his dad, but he actually goes out and does it. I thought I really liked the comparison there as well, of like, his dad being this more, the bookworm type, where he's really interested in this stuff, but he didn't actually go out in the field and do it. And then how he ends up getting caught out in the field, and Indiana Jones having to go after him. I love the whole dynamic of the relationship. Back to the moment when it seems like Indy looks like, to his dad's falling off a cliff, and there's a moment where he's just like, 5 minutes, if I only have 5 minutes, I would open up, talk to you, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but that was just a really good moment there.
I've lost him. And I never told him anything. I just wasn't ready, Marcus. 5 minutes would have been enough.
And then the end moment, again, they're going after the Holy Grail, and you have Indy is reaching out for it in that moment when, of course, they got it. He saves his dad, of course, and then that moment where it's down below and Indy's reaching for it. His dad has him by one hand, and he just says to him, "Just let it go. Just let it go."
I can almost reach it, Dad. Indiana? Indiana? Let it go.
You know, it's not worth it. Basically, in that moment of the realization that he came to in the movie, he is now relaying back to his son, and also in that moment, finally opening up to him. That's a really cool, nice moment there between the father and son relationship. There, I really it's just really well done. The writing and the performances of both the actors to really make that really hit home by the end of this movie. The action scenes in this movie, they're all done very well. It definitely feels very much like an Indiana Jones film. There's a lot of fun to be had with it. I really do like how you have this scene setting up Julian Glover as Walter Donovan. I really love the setup they had there with him bringing Indy in. You might think at first, oh yeah, he's just a guy who's hiring Indy like anybody else would, but he turns out to be working with the Nazis. I liked how they did that. It kind of fit with an Indiana Jones film, what you might expect a certain villain to do. Alison Doody as Elsa in this movie, I really did like what they did with her character as well within the writing, because up to this point, this is the third movie in the franchise, and the first movie you had, of course, Marion, who I couldn't remember doing. In my last, if you've seen my Temple of Doom review, I couldn't remember her name while doing that review. Marion's obviously really good in Raiders, one of my favorite characters at the time. Temple of Doom, it was definitely more of that typical female character that you might see in a lot of other movies, action movies or action adventure. And if you see my Temple of Doom review, her character got on my nerves at various times throughout that movie. I like what they did with this character, where the woman in this movie, she, at first it seemed like, okay, it's going to be just another romantic interest for Indy. But then you get the moment where she's turned and she's actually working with the Nazis. I like the switch up they did with that, because it wasn't a typical or predictable. And one thing I will say that was predictable, though, like as soon as they first meet Indy and Elsa, and they're talking when he first shows up and he's looking for his dad, and as soon as she says she knows his dad and she starts talking about him, and the way she was talking about him, I predicted, I was like, I bet she got with the dad too. And the fact that they end up doing that later on, I really did love that. It was just such a funny moment. There's some funny moments throughout, much like in this whole first trilogy of this franchise. Just a lot of really naturally funny moments, and then funny moments within like the directing, visual gags and whatnot. Denholm Elliott in here as Marcus Brody is really good as well, as usual. It's really just always nice to see him in this movie. And River Phoenix in here, of course, seeing him in this, much like pretty much everyone else, is always a bittersweet thing. He's just so good as a young Indy in the beginning of this movie. I like what they did with this whole opening sequence. Felt very fun, felt very Indiana Jones. He played the role so well. It really did feel like a young Harrison Ford doing this whole train sequence, and it was just a really well directed and well done. Gets you in the fun vibe of the Indiana Jones back in this world again. It was a nice setup, and also setting up the relationship between him and his dad, how Indy lives his life basically from that point on, with the full-on adventurous side of him, the constant non-stop way he lives. And of course, John Rhys-Davies again back in here as Sala. Just always nice to see him playing this character, and see him. He gets down in some of the stunts, it seems like it's true in this movie. Obviously, he doesn't do all of it. I don't even know how much he really does, but it seems like he's definitely moving around in this movie pretty damn good. And it's like, okay, his character really seems like he is competent and down to fight in this movie as well. Out of the three, this might be the least memorable in terms of just what happens throughout this movie. There's different callbacks throughout this movie that are very similar to Raiders of the Lost Ark. They do the whole thing they do, of course, with the scene opening up with Harrison Ford talking to his class, teaching them. And then you have Denholm Elliott's Brody coming in the class, and they have the same type of shot, same scene going on. There's nice little callbacks in this movie throughout to like Raiders and whatnot, but there isn't a lot of like new scenes in this movie that I remember as much as Temple of Doom and Raiders. It definitely, with how different Temple was at times, and then just Raiders being just so great, those scenes just stick out to me much more. Even though this was a very well done, really good Indiana Jones movie, it had all the heart, all the adventure again there, and still those moments of peril, like when his dad gets shot there near the end, and then he has to go through and do the classic, it felt like it's a booby trap test that Indy had to go through to get to the Holy Grail. It was a nice sequence. It was really good, but I do still like the third act to Raiders better, and Temple of Doom, I think overall just more to me personally. But I still really appreciate this movie, and I think definitely just the father-son relationship is really what makes this movie so good, and definitely does differentiate itself, obviously, with that relationship there. In the end, I think in terms of the trilogy, it's the third For me, it goes Raiders, Temple, and Last Crusade, I believe, for me personally. There's not really any major negatives with this movie, really, that I can think of when watching it. I think everything is just really well done. The writing, the cinematography, it has that great Spielberg 80s Indiana Jones movies look. And it's just very fun. You're immediately put back into this world. They continue to do things with all, of course, the everything you would expect in Indiana Jones movie is still appears in this movie. A really good, nice end to the trilogy. But that's my main thoughts on this one. I'm going to give Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade an 8.5 out of 10. Really well done, especially when you look at the movies coming after this now that I'm going to be reviewing right after this video. This is definitely, it warms your heart watching this still, because you're like, okay, they still had it down here. But I thought in terms of a trilogy, though, this is definitely one of the better ones of all time. But what do you guys think? If you're watching this, have you seen all of the Indiana Jones films? What is your favorite Indy film? Are you not maybe that much of a fan of this franchise? How much of a fan are you? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment down below. I always love hearing any feedback that I can get. Also, leave a like as well if you did enjoy this video, and hit that subscribe button if this is your first time watching any of my videos, or if you're a returning viewer as well. Again, any support is very much appreciated. You can also follow me on TikTok and add me on Snapchat, where I will post content similar to this, but for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube channel, as always, Not Your Average Josh. So again, you can find all these Indiana Jones movie reviews that I put out in my playlist. It should be on my channel. There's Indiana Jones movie review series playlist. So go check out any other videos I have about any of these other films. So that is my main thoughts for now. Be looking for more videos very soon, and I will talk to you guys later.